Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order, Last Days of Europe, with me, Mega, and Empire of Japan. So in the last episode, we've entered November. We are currently working on adjusting the budget. I do wonder what's going to happen when we finish this tree. Usually things start to move pretty fast after the original tree is finished, but we'll see. And I like the fact that we have really good things in front of us, like increasing our GDP, getting 100 political power, getting more production efficiency growth, and getting our GDP growth increased as well. So yeah, good things are gonna happen. But we're gonna start this episode by looking at two events that popped up at the end of the last one. So the first one is obviously a tough crowd. The smoke in the room was so dense that Ibuka Masaru could barely see the bureaucrats and politicians sitting across from him. Typical for these Yokosankai-linked veterans. Most had been in government for decades. All were devoting much more attention to filling the room with cigarette smoke than they were to Ibuka's sales pitch. He wouldn't have been surprised if this was one of the video games they like to play instead of doing work. Overall, you can expect productivity increase of at least 30% within 6 months of implementing Fujitsu systems throughout the administrative departments, potentially even up to 70%, depending on how fast your workers take it. Our engineers have been working on specialized administrative programs to further smooth out the process. The bureaucrats exchanged glances among themselves. Ibuka wrinkled his nose slightly as he was assaulted by a fresh wave of noxious gases. "And how many bombs can we expect in these computers?" one bureaucrat asked, causing the morons around him to start cackling loudly. "They are made by Chinese hands, are they not? How long will it take for them to break down? A week?" Ibuka had naturally planned for the scenario. Openness to change has never been a strong point of the bureaucracy or the YSK. "Of course, I understand your concerns, gentlemen," he replied, doing his best to keep the irritation out of his voice. "That's why I have taken the preliminary step of making deals with private accounting firms and Tokyo Stock Exchange analysts. Believe me, they will vouch for the efficiency of my products. Change, one exhausting step at a time." Okay then. So the Imperial Naval Ministry. Like its army twin, the Navy Ministry was a monolithic titan of imperial administration. There were few bodies in the entire Japan that could claim as much influence or wield as much authority as the total combined might of the Japanese Navy, and among the few who did hold legal authority either equal or above that of the ministry, only the offices of the Emperor himself could reliably hold them accountable. This reality was ever present in the minds of the investigations, the detectives, gnawing at the edges of their psyche as they planned their routes of inquiry into the ministry. As with the Army Ministry, they anticipated a difficult bureaucratic struggle against the internal departments of the Navy. But in this case, their leads were much less clearly refined in scope, and they had half the number of contacts. In order to have any hope of following the case all the way through, the investigators would have to be very precise in their choice of targets. What is the Navy doing with the military yen? What are the Navy bureaucrats hiding? I think the second choice is a better one. They must have a reason for actually siding with them. So the only army that's actually still ruling is the Shinsha 4 Haganeshidan. Okay. We finished nice, final second agent. We finished the economy department, giving us civilian intelligence plus 25%. So now let's get the army. You are not doing anything at this point, just protecting us. Some activity has been noticed. Well, I'm thinking we might want to send them to the United States of America. Logistics Company 2. That is really good. It's actually what we were thinking about this whole time. So supply usage lowered by 10% and fuel usage by 5%. If we go with the level 3, it is additional 10% reduction and fuel usage by 5%, which is going to be great for our expeditionary force. Continued statistical evaluation of troop supply needs will contribute to maximizing the utility of our resources, allowing us to prioritize units that are more important to our current operations. So if we went and gave it attention Sudan instead of the, or even instead of the supply or artillery, yep, fuel usage will lower by 10% and supply by 20%. That is actually really darn good. And it's gonna go by 30 and 15%. So then it starts making quite a lot of sense to actually do that. Okay, but where were we? We have just finished drilling all of our armies, which is amazing because now we can start drilling all of our navies, if there is actually any reason to. So any of you need to drill? You all need to drill. Okay. Trained 1. So I believe they will get to trained 2. Okay, we're bleeding out fuel pretty rapidly though at this point. Wow, 9.4 thousand. Okay, that's not good at all. We'll have to do it fleet by fleet, or at least 2 fleets at a time and not. Well, okay, let's do it. Let's do it fleet by fleet, because, you know, this is actually very excessive and I don't really feel like importing more fuel. So if we cut it down to 1/3, 6.9, no, okay, 2.9 thousand. Okay, that is reasonable. So we'll have to do it fleet by fleet, unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is. And we have our ships here drilling. You don't have any air wings. That is a little bit disconcerting. We'll have to look into that. Oh, okay. But what kind of event do we have here right now? Solidarity among seamen. Each of the imperial military branches had developed in such a way that they were effectively split in two along an administrative operational divide. The administrative side of each branch was handled by their respective ministry, which also served to officially manage the branch's political affairs and representation in the imperial cabinet. For operational affairs, each branch had a general staff office, responsible for the planning and execution of military plans required for national defense, as well as most matters related to intelligence and supply chains. But in both cases, neither of the two halves were so willing to surrender all their influence for the sake of avoiding redundancy. Particularly in the Imperial Navy, the General Staff offices still held a good deal of political sway, which they effectively used as clubs to knock aside any opposition, while the ministries were sure to keep and cultivate intelligence webs that rivaled their official counterparts. But in the circumstances of this particular case, the areas of suspicion were not where the two halves of the Navy drifted apart and quarreled, but where they came together and agreed. It was the joint opinion of the two detectives that if the murderer and associated conspiratorial elements were stemming from some disunity, there would have been some associated fanfare. The silent conducts of the suspected parties only betrayed their real motivation. They were hiding something, but what? That is a good question. And we have a Navy doctrine available. Okay, so global fleet distribution or a modern Kantai-Kasen. So what's the difference? To be able to maintain global hegemony, we must be within arm's reach of every continent. Our fleets will never tire in their patrol of the oceans, stationed at far-flung bases across the world. Mutual exclusive with modern Kantai-Kasen. So this would give us max range of 15% and naval speed of 10. And you would give us naval hit chance and naval experience gain. The Kantai-Kasen, or decisive battle doctrine, is the strategy of eliminating the enemy navy in a quick, decisive battle, which the IJN used successfully in the last war. Though technology has changed, the rules of naval combat still apply and we must prepare for this decisive moment. So this one would be focused on fighting. This one is a little bit more on organization. But I think the range would be better for us, honestly. Global free distribution sounds like a better plan, so let's get that one. I mean, it is beyond question that having a bonus to fighting itself is very useful, but you know how it is. Okay, so the current daily consumption is now reasonable. We're stockpiling about 1,000 fuel per day, but we really don't have that much of a maximum stockpile. 653k. If we activate all of our fleets, we would burn it in 50 days. So with the maximum capacity, it would be about 100 days. That is not great. Can we build some fuel silos? I am not gonna do that right now, but I'm thinking infrastructure. Increases supply power, division speed, raw resource extraction, and a little bit of fuel capacity, but that's about it. Okay, fuel silo here, 5,000, that's actually extremely cheap. Okay, let me build a couple, because in case we get into a prolonged conflict, it would absolutely make sense to have more of these. So 2 of you, and then 2 of you, 2 of you. It's good that they're so cheap. We don't really lose anything by building these. Okay. For price of these 2 fuel silos, we built about half a school. So it's not like we are losing anything of major value. We don't have a lot of production units though. We really need to get the GDP up and running a little bit more to have that settled. But we're doing good. I mean, we are doing really good. I actually checked, and the original starting debt was over 260 billion, so we are lowering it pretty nicely. And the GDP was about 250 billion, so it's really, really going well. The unofficial merchant marine. To tackle the task of locating the point of collaboration between the two halves of the Navy, as well as its purpose and potentially associated criminal motivations, the 2 lead detectives made a brief return to their initial strategy. Accompanied by a small group of hand-picked officers, Kodaira would examine the ongoing projects, directives, and expenses of the Navy's General Staff Office, while Tachi would do the same for the Navy Ministry. Then they would compare the results of their parallel inquiries and attempt to find where they aligned in a noteworthy manner. Sure enough, they were able to find their overlap. In recent years, both halves of the naval bureaucracy had enacted a number of programs concerned with promoting intra-sphere commercial shipping and bringing the Navy's oversight closer to the shipping systems that already exist. This included offering a number of lucrative contracts to various companies, as well as providing easy means of commercial transport, such as cargo ships and planes. In a sense, through the combined efforts of the 2 Navy offices, they had managed to cultivate an unofficial merchant marine almost entirely under the watchful eye of the Naval Administration. Wow, this is so corrupt. The strict subordinate nature of the system, combined with the apparent tendency to use the military yen and other roundabout means of payment, made it difficult to get a decent estimate of the size of the shipping racket they ran. There were 2 ways the investigation could go about this. They could try to get a sense of the revenue streams of the Navy shipping, or they could try to get a sense of their market strategy and reverse engineer it from that. The goods and services, I think that's going to be a better and easier task. So we have the Navy and the Army running completely independent, without any control, and the Navy is actually running a parallel transport company. I don't have to say that this is probably bringing a ton of revenue that's ending in someone's pocket. Catholicist elected in Uruguay. The 1962 Uruguayan elections have come to a close, and the winners are the Catholicist of the Colorado Party. Oscar Castillo is expected to head the council for the first year of the new government. A retired general, Castillo is considered a hero for his role in helping the victims of the 1959 floods. Such was his renown that the recently created UCB decided to recruit him into its ranks. Representing the Colorado right, the UCB is the home of the conservative Baptists and other minor groups. One of them are the Blancoacevadists, controversial for their fascist sympathies. While Castillo has managed to name a cabinet with some left-wing figures to keep the unity of the Colorado Party, maintaining it will be a task to require military discipline. Leftists, rightists, and proto-fascists in the same place. That doesn't seem stable. It certainly does not. Okay. Okay, we have a new thing here. Hold on. I completely forgot about that. The bill in that. So the House of Cards here, we have 253 MPs, so we're okay. And what is this? Current bill, Industrial Freedoms Act, proposed by the Conservatives. We have 253 of the 233 needed. Support in the House of Peers 73% out of the 50. So our faction proposed the bill based on the significance of the bill. Should it fall, our government stability will decrease by 5%. Should it succeed, the stability will increase. Affects one selected political power plus 25. 2 times research bonus for industry. Decrease industrial regulations. Should the Freedom Act pass? Okay. So it's gonna pass in 18 days. Okay, so we're gonna have ongoing mechanic here. Cool, so it actually makes sense that we would try to improve the relations here. So who has the Technocrats of 87, Reformists in Independence? So let's court the independent. Oh, we can't. When the bill in the Diet is active, we cannot do anything. So we can do it here though. 9 more independent MPs will support this bill. I don't think we need to do anything here. Let's just leave it running because we are in the green. So there's no point in wasting our political power. The death of Queen Wilhelmina. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands, exiled in Suriname, has died of cardiac arrest in her makeshift residence in Paramaribo, where she had stayed since the government's in-exile encampment to the Caribbean. The death came as no surprise. Wilhelmina had long been ill, forcing her daughter, the now Queen Juliana, to assume more and more of her duties. The Dutch Caribbean, at times plagued by disagreements, unites to mourn her death. Mourning has even been reported in the Nazi-occupied Netherlands. At the late Queen's request, the funeral was performed in white vestments rather than black, in reflection of her Christian belief that death was merely the beginning of eternal life. Due to the circumstances, a special cemetery has been built in Paramaribo to house her remains. However, government sources indicate that if Amsterdam is ever freed, she will join her ancestors in the royal crypt there. Our condolences. And the liaison. With the detective's leads quickly beginning to run short, more decisive, stronger actions became more and more appealing. The implicitly shadowy nature of the Imperial Navy's involvement with financial conglomerates in international commercial interests made it extremely difficult for the investigation to track down relevant information. Beyond that, given the number of different sub-companies and proxy deals the Navy dealt with, it was almost impossible to direct their focus at one particular office for maximized results. Almost. In their inquiries, the detectives stumbled upon an obscure organization whose name appeared in hard-end documents from the Imperial Cabinet. During the war, an administrative structure was created to coordinate operations between the civilian government and military bureaucracies, the Imperial General Headquarters Government Liaison Conference. At the time, this had granted some degree of administrative control over commercial and industrial shipping movements. After the war, it seemed the Navy had particularly enjoyed this newfound power, and so successfully lobbied for the creation of a similar body, the Imperial General Headquarters Industrial Interest Liaison Conference. This body, staffed by key officers from both branches of the military and representatives from approved financial conglomerates, was ostensibly in charge of reviving and handling the process related to military contracts. Apparently, they were responsible for overseeing the financial logistics as well as ensuring securing and legal directives were adhered to. If there was ever a Department of State to hit with a general administrative audit, it was this one. But it's gonna have to be a big one. I'm just wondering when they realize we're after them and just hit us with everything they got. That's gonna be bloody. Really, really bloody. Okay, so with the hospital construction and everything done here, I think we can move to engineering. Aero accidents, night operations, bad weather penalty, naval targeting, naval AA. Okay, as far as the aircraft goes, we are fine. Helicopters though, we could get the anti-sub heli, but it's fine. This is just upgrades to the Navy. We are working on the anti-air. So the heavy tank chassis would be, or the super heavy tank chassis would be something we wanted to go with, but I don't think so. You know what, we're looking a lot at the attack helicopters, so let us try to attack helicopter company. As helicopters have become bulkier and able to carry heavier loads, their potential for military use is obvious. Supporting our units with helicopters powerful enough to carry military armament such as auto cannons and anti-tank missiles may prove extremely beneficial. So let's go with the attack helicopters and we'll see what their effect is gonna be. Okay, now, how many units do we have of you? Because I would probably want to change the Chian Shidan units all to Hohei Shidan, but that's definitely gonna cause us a lot of extra cost. We cannot sort by type. That actually sucks. But can I sort by type here? Okay, so we have 2 here. Wait. We have 6 here, so that's 8. 8, 9. Okay, that would... I don't know how much we're paying for the military though. Military spending 8.9 billion. So that could reasonably increase our costs by about $500 million or more. So I think we'd rather wait a bit. Oh my god, look at that! It's December. Debt to GDP 98.6. GDP 261.2 billion. Really nice. Cool. So sanctity in obscurity. The obscure nature of the Imperial General Headquarters Industrial Interest Liaison Conference made it somewhat difficult to get a proper grasp of them in order to conduct a proper audit. As the rather inconvenient name implied, it was less an organization in its own right and more an administrative overlap between 2 prior existing organizations. The roles and functions of the Imperial General Headquarters were well known to the investigations staff. It was the body responsible for coordinating policy and operations between the 2 branches of the military, and was directed by the offices of the Emperor himself. The Industrial Interest Liaison was a different story, however. It was a loose council of industrial and financial representatives and experts that seemed to have been formed specifically to be a part of the conference organization. The actual members of the liaison, however, had to be approved by the Imperial General Headquarters before the conference could convene. But in many cases, approved could be substituted with selected without much loss of accuracy when dealing with the IJH, leaving the detectives to question the liaison's real independence. Either side of the conference was considered to be a viable path to investigate. However, each came with their own challenges. For one, they could focus on the military side of the conference, mostly concerned with logistics and international shipping. Alternatively, they could turn to the industry liaison, who were likely to be the dominant party in financial negotiations, and examine the actual contracts that had been agreed upon. Let's go over the industrial contracts. I'm interested in seeing how much of a corruption we're facing here. We've lost a little bit of production units. So let's make sure that the military keeps running. How are we doing on our type 101 and 102? 21 and 21. That is decent. I wanted to check how much would we need for each of these. 36 and 50. Okay. So we don't even have gold for one. Of one unit, that is. It's gonna take a while before it happens. But I mean, the production should be kicking up. Yep, 22.6. So we're looking at roughly 3 something per week. So about 10 in a month. Well, slightly more, but conservatively 10 in a month. We'll see. But that'll be very effective eventually. So with this debt going down, and actually factually going down, not only relatively, but factually going down, you're looking really good. We have to absolutely safeguard the prime credit rating that we have. Because if we drop even to acceptable, look at how much the debt servicing would increase. From 1.5% to 4.7%, and at junk it's 25%. So just from prime to exceptional, it would probably increase the debt servicing from 3.8 billion to something like 4.5. At acceptable, you are already looking at triple. So we would be paying what? Nearly 10 billion. No, more than 10 billion actually. Oh, it's crazy. That's why you need to have the best credit rating you can have, because otherwise our economy is just gonna go down the crapshoot. There really is nothing we can do with it. So once it goes out of our hands, we are completely screwed. So in 11 days the bill is gonna pass. Oh, and we're paused. And we're gonna see what's gonna happen there. Enforced faction unity, court of technocrats, 261. So if it passes, what was the effect? 25 political power, that's really good. And the research bonus for industry is really good. Hidden in plain sight. Every year the brave men that fought to defend Japan needed a vast array of supplies. It wasn't much of a surprise then that a vast array of companies were needed to supply the soldiers both in Japan and abroad. The industrial interest liaison supposedly serves as an independent arbiter of this process, overseeing contracts and the money behind them, while in practice the IIL appears to be a mere proxy of army and navy interests. Its diligent bookkeeping might be of great use to the investigation. The police department was not surprised to see that the organization's diligence and record keeping did not extend to diligence in cooperation with the police. Rumors of the investigation might have reached the men of the liaison office, or perhaps the usual contempt for civilian administration delayed the transfer of documents. The reason for the military men's grouchy behavior quickly became apparent when the team began sifting through the documents. The surprising scale of the military yen use in supplying and shipping contracts rapidly came to light. In some months, 3 to 5% of procurement contracts use it. In shipping contracts, the proportion reached 20% in some time periods. While the currency was a legal tender, and the army was perfect in its right to use it, it was truly bizarre to see that much military money slashing around bank accounts on the home islands. It certainly complicated the payment of contracts as conversion offices became essential. To the audit team's growing unease, a specific office treated almost all of the conversion to regular money. A popular office? Okay, so we just gained extra industry units that we were invested in construction, and we can get my Miyamoto here, seducer and demolitions expert. Sure. So we now have 2 of these agents. Okay, in 1 day the army department is going to be done. I'm wondering where we're going to send you, honestly. Do we have any foreign interests that we would like to work on? I'm thinking Australia, being so close to us, would be a good and valid target. Agency infiltration, wiretapping. Let's continue with the Naval Department, and we might let's send one of you to Canberra, and the other one to Washington. You guys might get captured, but we have 2 of you, so you can easily save each other in case it is necessary. Okay, and on that note, I think I'm going to end the episode here. Our technology is improving, our economy is improving. We're going to soon hit January, which means that we'll have our first yearly report on the growth of the sphere. I'm really looking forward to that, but suffice to say that we can already see that our economy is becoming dominant. We jumped over United States of America and now have 11 more points in economy, though as far as military goes, they are leaving us behind significantly. But hey, we had some victories. On Germany, wow. Germany has some victories. Okay, so we won in Malay, but what did Germany do? Damn.